What makes a genius genius? The talent people across the field, from chess to sport or even video games, they share some common character. However, those characters are normally misunderstood by the public, and those misunderstandings not only create a loss of mental barrier for people to improve, it also make people drop out early before even test out they have the talent for the skill or hobby they try to get into. I used to make a video before called Why Geniuses Are All Jerks. Talk about some basic brain science behind the genius mind and how it lead them into a jerk. In this video, we're gonna dive even deeper of what make a genius genius. One of those common character genius share is called intuitions, or in some like business, they call it sense. They have a business sense, or in sports, they may call it they have a field IQ. All in all, we use a very vague word to describe some brilliant thing they done, and those vague words could come from a variety of sources. It could be because the repetition they be done through practice. It could be because some golden touch of just all of the blue crazy idea and gave them a big win. And of course, some brain scientists want to destructure this vague word to actually figure out what does make people good. So as an average person, we can also replicate some successful example of the geniuses. And from now on, I'm gonna call the vague word as intuitions. There's normally a two category of performance actually dictate how well they perform. The first one called mental chunks. What is the mental chunks? You probably heard the story of Beethoven. He can have a perfect pitch when he was 6 years old. And then even nowadays on reality TV show, whenever they have a musician on board, they will test their perfect pitch to play a piano key, and they can tell you what key that is.
It's like I can hear the note before it even.
How old were you?
In the book Peak, they want to check it out. This sign of geniuses, how easily to achieve. So they organize lots of students from middle school or even primary school to give them some perfect pitch lessons specifically to see how many of them are showing the trait of Beethoven. After 2-3 weeks of training, about 70% of kids have the ability of perfect pitch. The example may sound fancy, but down to the ground is basically two neural cells are connected to each other. So when one is lining up, another one light up as well. And that normally can be acquired by practice or care for the details. However, there's another category is also from mental chunks, but it don't normally happen frequent. When people start learning, some of the learning become mental chunks. That's our intention of learning. But people also start learning subconsciously. Just like last time you gave a presentation to the class of 40, you suddenly feel so nervous and you say something wrong and you saw someone was laughing at you. Next time when you be on the similar situation, you have a fear, and that fear is actually learning process that happens subconsciously. But for geniuses, sometimes one neural cell is actually connected to a neural cell that is irrelevant in the public eye. However, it works in one of the most difficult situations that require performance. It could be in the soccer. They suddenly come up a crazy move, jump up in the sky and kick the ball in 360 way. Or in the chess move, sacrifice the most important pieces, but score a win. Or even Van Gogh, after 2 years of non-orthodox practice of painting, he suddenly created his own style of painting because he never been trained with the traditional method of art educations. So, does that mean this kind of subconscious is purely by luck? A normal person will have such a difficult time to become geniuses? The answer is opposite. Anyone follow that similar trait of intuition could become geniuses. Because there's one thing you're already a genius of, based on intuition standpoint, is languages. Anybody who are mother tongue of English can probably tell English is not my first languages. And that is not even because you hear me saying certain sentence and you loop it back to certain grammar rule or this word, how accurate is this word that he just used? It's a subconscious experience. And then let's loop it back to the beginning what we said, the misunderstanding of the public. So if you have to track him back, how did you have this talent, genius, subconscious intuition? It's all from you as a kid, you just practice randomly. Of course, you say wrong thing. Over time, you may learn from having a friend, you may learn from watching a movie, but you eventually acquire that genius intuitions or mental chunks, whatever you can describe as. And if you keep practice and go to a more difficult environment, this intuition will become better and better. And sometimes you will use a smart big word that everybody think you're just being cocky, but it's just your subtuition to say those words. And that's exactly the common character we try to convey. But can you imagine if a kid, when they was younger, say something wrong and they're like, this is too difficult. Speaking is such a difficult thing and it's not for me. And they stop speaking after that. What could happen to that kid? And that is exactly what we mentioned in the beginning of the video, the misunderstanding. People think genius is how can I use shortest amount of time to master some very difficult skills. And that's why sometimes people try certain hobby skills for less than 5, 10, 20 hours of practice. It didn't see the effect as they expected, or maybe because they underestimate how difficult the skill are, but they eventually gave up. And you probably hear so much people tell you, oh, I'm not made for sports. I'm not made for math. I'm not made for languages. This is too difficult. I cannot imagine how people do law. But if you dig down to any field, the experts, the geniuses, they are not those people normally have the upper hand in the shortest time. For example, when Messi started playing soccer, he got diagnosis underdevelopment.
Era chiquito. Yo no sabía ni cuántos años tenía. Era chiquito.
He have a loss of setback when he decide to join a team. And then all the coach believe that with his body and how developed slowly, he will never make to any professional scene. So if not geniuses is not describe those people who can pick up a skill fast. So what does it mean genius then? So what does it mean a normal pro player in soccer and the genius pro player? The answer is genius is a description of someone's upper limit in certain skills. For example, back to the example of Messi, he been playing soccer since he was 5. So if you loop the time back when you was 5 and you know your dream is play soccer and practice since 5, do you think you will become next Messi? The answer is probably no. The separation line not happen in the mental chunks, the repetition, the neural connection. It actually happened into the subconscious learning. And yes, now we have a high-speed camera, we have a more censorship to people, and we can decode bit by bit what makes certain geniuses better than other pro player. However, if you even have to sit that genius down, ask Messi, say, tell me all the secret, what makes you become one of the best soccer player in the world? He probably will tell you, I don't know. I just do my thing on the field. And to even test, are you a genius? At least you need to be an intro level. You need to have some basic mental chunks or understand the pro matters in a way to even test out, do I have a talent in that sort? But people are shying away just because my parents or my teacher told me that you're too stupid because after 10 days of practice math, you still yet get what is a 5 plus 5. And in the end, I really want to use one experiment to show why I find this video are so important and make me want to film such a video. It's because there's a psychological effect called self-prediction prophecy. Basically, you give the teacher 2 classes, tell them, hey, one of them is genius class, another one is just average kids. Slowly over the year, people actually find what we tell the teacher, genius class, are perform way better than the average class. But the reality is those 2 classes of students are actually equal. And down the line, people find more and more that if you don't even think you're good enough, you're not a genius, you're not made this occupation, and that will actually turn into truth of our life. And then down to the earth, that is a very clear example how one's understanding to a word influence one's life. And I really hope you learned something today. My name is Paul. I see you next time. Bye.